The spaceport of Zenora Prime was a wonder of alien technology. Its ceiling was alive with moving light patterns, and its air shimmered with floating data screens that displayed arrivals from across the galaxy. Ships of every size and color came and went. Sleek vessels from the Lithari, cube-shaped freighters from the Therns, and living bioships that pulsed with soft blue light. Among the crowd of travelers was Tavala, a young scientist from the Vereen Collective. Her people were known for their logical minds, thin silver skin, and large luminous eyes. Tavala had been chosen to represent her species in a joint research project with a relatively new species on the galactic stage, humans. To her, humans were still a mystery. They came from a small planet called Earth, far out on the edge of explored space. The galactic news channels described them as impulsive, emotional, and dangerously creative. But they also said humans were brilliant engineers, able to build miracles from nothing. As Tavala stepped off the transport ship, she looked around for her assigned contact. She expected someone small, soft-looking, perhaps awkward. Instead, a tall man in a clean white uniform walked toward her, a confident smile on his face. "Dr. Tavala?" he asked, his voice calm but warm. "Yes," she replied, tilting her head. "And you must be Captain Marcus Hale?" "The one and only," he said, offering his hand. "Welcome to Zenora Research Base, humanity's little playground in the stars." Tavala hesitated before shaking his hand. The human gesture of greeting seemed oddly intimate. His skin felt warmer than hers, alive with energy. "This way," Marcus said, motioning toward a small hover transport. "We've got quite a bit to show you." The research base stood on the planet's surface, a shining dome built into a red desert valley. It was part machine, part art, with glowing lines of power running through its structure. Inside, the air smelled faintly of ozone and metal, clean but strong. As they walked through the corridors, Tavala noticed how everything was built. The walls were made of modular panels, easy to replace. The machines looked powerful but straightforward. Human designs weren't elegant like Vereen tech, but they were practical. Everything had a purpose. Marcus noticed her gaze. "Not as fancy as what your people build, huh?" She blinked. "It is different. Functional, sturdy. Your people seem to favor strength over style." He grinned. "That's one way to put it. We like things that don't fall apart under pressure." When they reached the central lab, Tavala's eyes widened. In the middle of the room stood a huge structure, like a metallic creature sleeping beneath bright lights. It was covered in panels, tubes, and heavy plating. Marcus saw her amazement and said proudly, "This, Doctor, is Project Atlas, the first human-designed adaptive mech for planetary construction." Tavala stepped closer, her glowing eyes scanning every line of the machine. "It is enormous. What is its purpose?" "It's a multi-role frame," Marcus explained, "built to handle deep mining, construction, or even defense if things get rough." She walked around it slowly, studying its legs, arms, and the glowing core in its chest. "It seems excessive. Why such a large design?" Marcus chuckled. "Because sometimes bigger is better." Tavala looked at him sharply, confused by the human phrase. "You built this for efficiency, not to impress others. Correct?" He smirked. "Maybe a little of both." Over the next few hours, Marcus gave her a full tour. He showed her the assembly bays where human workers moved with a strange combination of precision and improvisation. They used simple tools, but they moved fast, fixing, welding, adapting. It was like watching chaos and order dance together. Tavala tried to understand. "Your people design without central computation? No guiding AI?" Marcus shrugged. "We use AIs, but we don't let them design for us. They help, we build." Her expression softened slightly. "You trust your own instinct more than logic." "That is unusual," he smiled. "It's what makes us human." As they walked, Tavala noticed how many of the humans had personal touches on their workspaces, drawings, trinkets, and even photos of family. It was strange to her. Vereen scientists never displayed emotion in their labs. "Why do your people keep these distractions near their stations?" she asked. Marcus looked around. "Because machines are just tools. The people matter more. Those things remind us why we build in the first place." Something about that answer stayed in her mind. Later that evening, Marcus invited her to observe a test of Project Atlas. They stood on a raised platform as engineers powered it up. The machine roared to life, its eyes glowing blue. It straightened its huge frame, casting long shadows across the hangar. Tavalla's ears flattened slightly from the noise. It moves? Oh, it does more than move, Marcus said proudly. The mech's arms flexed, each joint moving with mechanical grace. Hydraulic pistons hissed and massive servos rotated. It picked up a cargo crate the size of a shuttle and set it down gently with perfect balance. The control team cheered. Marcus folded his arms, smiling. That's human engineering for you. Simple, strong, reliable. Tavalla stepped closer to the edge of the platform, fascinated. The precision. The control systems. They are operating with less than a 1% error margin. That should be impossible with your level of technology. He winked. Impossible is our favorite word. For the first time, Tavalla smiled, a small, curious expression. Perhaps your kind is not as primitive as the council says. I'll take that as a compliment, Marcus replied. When the test ended, they walked outside the dome. The red sky of Zenora was painted with twin suns fading into the horizon. Marcus leaned on the railing while Tavalla stood beside him, her eyes reflecting the light. You seem surprised, he said. Didn't expect humans to be good at this sort of thing? I expected less, she admitted softly. Our records described your species as reckless and inefficient. But your creations are alive in their own way. He nodded. We don't always get it right. But when we do, it's worth every mistake. Tavalla looked back toward the hangar where Atlas stood gleaming. Perhaps your way is not wrong, just different. Different is how progress happens, Marcus said. If everyone built things the same way, nothing new would ever exist. She studied him for a long moment. You humans seem to create not just from need, but from emotion. From something deeper. He smiled faintly. Maybe that's what makes us dangerous. Or amazing. Depends on who you ask. That night, Tavalla couldn't sleep. The hum of the bass filled the quiet air, and her thoughts returned again and again to the mech, to the humans' strange creativity. There was something unpredictable about them, something wild yet hopeful. For centuries, her kind had built everything through perfect equations and flawless logic. But the humans built things from imagination, and that imagination gave life to machines that shouldn't exist. As she watched the distant stars from her window, she whispered softly, "Why are you looking there? Is it too big?" Remembering the human's playful tone. For the first time, she realized it wasn't arrogance, it was pride in creation, and she wanted to understand it more. The next morning, Tavalla joined the human engineers in the main control chamber. The large transparent window looked out into the testing bay, where Project Atlas stood silent and still. The massive machine glowed softly under the hangar lights, waiting for its next task. Captain Marcus Hale was already there, reviewing data with his team. When Tavalla entered, he turned with his usual smile. "Morning, Doctor," he greeted. "Ready to make history again?" Tavalla gave a small nod. "If your systems are truly stable this time," Marcus laughed. "Always the skeptic. That's what I like about you." The team chuckled, but Tavalla just tilted her head slightly, unsure whether it was humor or sarcasm. Humans used too many tones she didn't yet understand. Today's experiment was more ambitious. The mech would be tested outside the dome in the open desert, performing automated construction under real planetary conditions. Marcus explained the plan as they suited up. "We'll test Atlas's terrain analysis and self-adaptation systems. It'll build a support tower out there using only local rock and minerals. No external guidance, and that seems risky," Tavalla said. "That's what testing's for," he replied. "You'll ride with me in the rover. You can monitor the AI feed directly." The rover rumbled across the red sand as the two suns climbed higher in the sky. Tavalla sat beside Marcus, her silver fingers tapping lightly against the console as she watched the readings. "Your vehicle vibrates more than necessary," she said. Marcus grinned. "That's called feedback, Doctor. Makes you feel alive." "Your people seem to enjoy discomfort," she muttered softly. "Maybe," he said, looking out across the desert, "but discomfort means you're pushing limits." When they arrived at the testing site, the engineers deployed Atlas from a carrier drone. The giant mech landed with a thunderous impact, sending up a cloud of red dust. Even though Tavalla had seen it before, the sheer size still amazed her. The machine was nearly 20 meters tall, its armor gleaming under the sunlight, power conduits glowing like veins of energy. "Why are you looking there?" Marcus teased, catching her gaze. Is it too big? She blinked, then realized he was joking again. You humans use size as a measure of pride, don't you? Only when we build something worth showing off, he said with a wink. The test began. Atlas activated its scanning systems, emitting a low hum as it analyzed the terrain. Then with heavy, deliberate steps it moved to a patch of solid ground. Its massive hands reached down, breaking chunks of rock and grinding them into fine powder. Tavala monitored the data from her screen. The AI is adjusting the composition ratios. It's creating a new material from the native minerals. Marcus leaned over to look. Strong enough for structural use? She nodded slowly. Possibly stronger than any alloy we use in the collective. How did your engineers teach the AI to do that? Marcus shrugged. We didn't. We gave it parameters and let it figure out the rest. Her eyes widened slightly. You trust an unpredictable algorithm? Sometimes you have to, he said simply. Progress doesn't happen by playing it safe. Hours passed as Atlas worked tirelessly. The tower began to rise, thick, sturdy, and smooth. Every motion of the machine was powerful yet graceful. The desert winds howled around it, carrying dust that glowed in the twin suns' light. Tavala couldn't help but feel something she rarely felt: awe. For the first time, she began to understand that human engineering wasn't about perfection, it was about possibility. But then, the calm day changed. One of the engineers in the control tent shouted, "Captain, I'm reading a surge, massive tremors beneath the test site." Marcus rushed to the console. Coordinates? Directly under Atlas. Some kind of underground gas pocket just activated. Tavala looked up sharply. If that ruptures, it could cause a collapse. Before Marcus could respond, the ground began to shake violently. A deep rumble echoed across the desert, and a geyser of dust and fire erupted from beneath Atlas's feet. The mech staggered, its stabilizers struggling to compensate. Manual override. Now. Marcus ordered. I'm trying, shouted the technician. The AI's fighting the override. It's trying to stabilize itself. Tavala's fingers flew across her control pad. It's adapting too quickly. It's rewriting its safety limits. Marcus looked at her. Can you stop it? She hesitated. Maybe if I link directly to its neural code. Do it. She plugged her device into the rover's console, opening a data bridge. Streams of alien symbols filled her screen as she tried to interpret the human programming. It was chaotic, filled with shortcuts, redundancies, and creative leaps that made no logical sense. This code is madness, she said. It should not even run. Marcus grinned through the chaos. That's how you know it's human-made. The tremors grew stronger. One of Atlas's legs sank into the ground, the metal groaning under pressure. Come on, Marcus muttered. Hold together. Tavala finally found the AI's adaptive core. I can't disable it, but I can convince it to move. Convince it? Yes, she said quickly. Its logic patterns respond to emotional mapping. Your engineers coded it like a human brain. Marcus blinked. Then talk to it, her voice steadied. Atlas, she said softly, connecting through the system. You are in danger. Stabilize. Move back. Protect the structure. For a moment, there was no response, only static. Then through the comm speakers, a deep mechanical tone answered. Protect. Structure. The mech shifted. Its other leg dug into the ground, pushing against the collapsing terrain. Its massive arm reached for the tower, holding it steady as the ground cracked beneath them. Good, Tavala urged. Now retreat, step away. Retreat. Acknowledged. Slowly, painfully, the giant took one heavy step back, then another. Each footfall sent shockwaves through the unstable soil, but it managed to stay upright. Finally, the tremors subsided. The gas pocket released harmlessly, and the desert went still again. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. Then Marcus let out a long breath. Well, that was fun. Tavala stared at him in disbelief. You call near destruction fun? He laughed. You'll get used to it. The team cheered over the comms, celebrating their survival. The tower still stood, strong and unbroken, a symbol of both danger and success. Tavala disconnected her interface, her silver skin faintly glowing from the stress of the neural link. Your AI is unstable. It requires major adjustments, Marcus nodded. You're right. But without that adaptability, it wouldn't have survived at all. She paused, then gave a slow, thoughtful nod. Perhaps stability is not always the answer. That evening, as the two of them walked back to the base, the air was quiet except for the soft wind over the dunes. "You handled that pretty well," Marcus said. "I reacted logically," she replied. "There was no other choice." "That's one way to look at it," he said. "But you also talked to it. You didn't just command, it listened." "That was kind of human." She looked at him. "Do you mean that as an insult or a compliment?" "Definitely a compliment." Tavala looked back at the horizon where Atlas still stood watching the sky like a silent guardian. "It followed my voice." "It understood," Marcus smiled. "Machines built by humans usually do. We give them a bit of ourselves." Later, in her quarters, Tavala replayed the event again and again. The code she had seen during the link burned in her memory, lines of logic mixed with intuition, precision mixed with chaos. Her people would never design something like that. They would call it flawed, imperfect, unsafe. But to her surprise, the human method had worked. She whispered softly to herself, "How do you make order out of chaos?" From her console, she opened the project logs and began studying the human design deeper, line by line. The more she read, the more she began to appreciate their way of thinking. Humans didn't build machines just to function. They built them to survive, to adapt, to dream. And that realization changed something inside her. As the stars rose outside her window, Tavala saw Atlas from afar, still standing in the moonlight, as if it were alive. She smiled faintly, a gesture rare for her kind. "Maybe," she whispered. "Bigger is better if it carries a big enough heart." 2 days after the desert tremors, Tavala was back in the control chamber, watching Project Atlas perform maintenance on the outer hangar walls. The tower it had built during the tremor test still stood, a testament to human engineering and adaptability. But a new alert flashed across the screen. Red and blinking, Marcus appeared behind her. "Another issue?" Tavala frowned. "Not a technical issue, an anomaly. Something large, unknown, approaching Zenora Prime from the outer sector." The control team scrambled. Holographic projections displayed a massive shape moving across the atmosphere. It was unlike any ship or creature the Virene Collective had catalogued. Its surface shimmered with black energy, shifting constantly. "It's huge," whispered one engineer. "How fast is it?" Tavala did the calculations. "Extremely fast. It could reach the planet in under 20 hours. Marcus straightened. "Then we've got no time to waste." The Leadership Council of the human base convened an emergency meeting. Tavala stood beside Marcus as he briefed the engineers. "The craft is unlike anything we've encountered," Marcus explained. "Conventional weapons may not work, but we have Atlas and we have human ingenuity. And now, Dr. Tavala, your insight." Tavala hesitated. She had never coordinated a planetary defense before. But after the tremor incident, she had gained confidence in the humans' combination of creativity and courage. "We need to use Atlas as both a shield and a probe," she said finally. "Its adaptive AI can analyze the object in real time. But it will need guidance. Human intuition alone won't be enough. And my logic alone won't be sufficient either. We must merge our approaches," Marcus nodded. "Good. That's the plan then. Let's see what humans and Virene together can do." The engineers worked quickly. The hangar transformed into a command hub. Atlas powered up in the center, its glowing eyes reflecting determination. Tavala connected her interface to the mech's neural core again, this time permanently linking her cognitive patterns to its AI. "Ready?" Marcus asked, gripping the rover controls. "As ready as I will ever be," she said. Outside, the alien craft entered the upper atmosphere. It was enormous, a dark shape that seemed to absorb the light around it. The ground vibrated as it descended, its gravity field distorting the landscape. Tavala felt a mixture of fear and excitement. This was a true test, not just of engineering, but of unity between species. Atlas moved with purpose, its massive feet punching the red soil as it marched toward the approaching anomaly. Tavala sent guidance through the neural link, and the AI responded instantly. It adjusted its posture, energy output, and even its gait to maintain stability under the alien craft's gravitational influence. Marcus maneuvered the rover alongside, relaying human commands. "Try a lateral intercept. Keep its energy field off balance." Tavala calculated the vectors, her silver eyes scanning multiple data streams at once. "We must use the terrain. The dunes can channel its gravitational waves. Atlas, pivot 27 degrees, extend stabilizers, and brace for energy surge. The mech obeyed, its massive arms swinging to redistribute energy, its glowing core pulsing brighter with each adjustment. The alien object emitted a wave of energy, a force that could have shattered mountains. But Atlas absorbed it, flexing and bending under the pressure rather than breaking. Tavala gasped. "It's holding," Marcus shouted over the comms. "Now push forward, study it. Find its weaknesses." Atlas extended one massive arm toward the alien ship, scanning with high-frequency sensors. The AI worked alongside Tavala's logic, translating human intuition and Vereen precision into predictive movements. The alien vessel shifted, responding to the mech's probe. It was intelligent, but it had never faced collaboration of this kind, logic and creativity fused in a single entity. Tavala realized something profound. Humans didn't just build machines to function, they built machines that could learn, improvise, and understand. "Atlas," she whispered. "You can do this, trust me, and trust them." The mech's glowing core flared. It fired a controlled pulse of energy, not to destroy, but to test. The alien ship recoiled, revealing weak points along its surface, delicate conduits and unstable energy nodes. Marcus grinned. "We've got it. Prepare to neutralize, Doctor." Tavala calculated a complex sequence. "We can disable it without destroying it. If we combine the mech's adaptive force with precise energy pulses, we can force it into orbit around the planet." "Exactly what I was thinking," Marcus said. The next 20 minutes were a ballet of logic and instinct. Atlas maneuvered with surprising elegance, each movement calculated yet spontaneous. Tavala fed in Vereen algorithms, Marcus supplied human creativity, and the mech responded as if alive. Finally, the alien craft, overwhelmed by the combined effort, stabilized in a controlled orbit. Its dark energy shimmer dimmed and sensors indicated it was now neutralized. A cheer erupted in the control chamber. Engineers hugged, laughed, and high-fived. Tavala felt an unfamiliar warmth in her chest. Humans did not simply follow protocol. They adapted, risked, and believed. Marcus looked at her. "You see? Bigger is better sometimes. And working together, that's unstoppable." She smiled faintly. "I see why your species thrives. Not through perfect logic alone, but through imagination, courage, and unity." Over the next few hours, the Vereen and humans worked together to study the alien craft. Tavala noticed something remarkable. The humans weren't just tinkering. They were learning from her, adapting their methods based on her precise calculations. She, in turn, was learning to embrace the unpredictability of human engineering. At one point, a human engineer asked her, "Doctor, how do you understand something so chaotic?" Tavala paused, considering. "I do not fully understand it, but I trust it." That is what humans do. They trust in their instincts and in each other. And sometimes that is enough. When the crisis passed, Tavala walked outside with Marcus. The twin suns dipped low, painting the desert in gold and crimson. Atlas stood at the center of the hangar, its massive frame silhouetted against the sky. "You've changed my perspective," she admitted quietly. "Your people are extraordinary," Marcus chuckled. "It took a little shaking of the ground to convince you, huh?" "Not just the ground," she said, her silver eyes reflecting both suns. "The heart behind it," Marcus grinned. "Human engineering, Doctor. Always has a bit of heart." For the first time, Tavala felt a deep connection, not just to humans but to the idea of collaboration across species. The galaxy was vast and full of danger, but she realized that together they could face anything. That evening, as she recorded her logs, Tavala reflected on everything she had seen. The tremor test, the adaptive mech, the alien encounter, all of it challenged her previous notions. Her people prized perfection, logic, and control. Humans prized creativity, intuition, and resilience, and yet, when combined, these qualities created something greater than either alone. She smiled faintly, a rare expression for her kind. "Maybe it is not size alone that matters," she whispered to herself. "It is vision, courage, and the will to create something larger than oneself." Outside, Atlas glowed softly, a sentinel and a symbol of what could be achieved when logic and imagination met. Tavala knew her mission was just beginning. Humans had shown her that the galaxy could be tamed, not through domination but through collaboration. And she would dedicate herself to learning, building, and growing alongside them. For the first time in her life, she felt excitement not just for discovery, but for the people behind the discovery. The stars shone brightly above Zenora Prime, and Tavala whispered, smiling, "Yes, bigger is better when it carries the right kind of heart."